You heard from Bobby?
Yeah, he was in this afternoon when I was laying everything
Did
out.
he get reconnected?
They were still working on it.
Bruce
That's why I
told
say
me,
it's bad news.
Bruce told me they're still working on it.
Said,
I ain't been by to see him.
Yeah, I drove down Dr. Smith Lane and then I couldn't find where they were. They were back off further down than Dr. Smith Lane.
Where are we? Is that out your way?
Well,
No.
we're live.
all right.
It's over there. All right.
We can get our housekeeping
You
finished.
have any flood water? All right, let's call the meeting to order. 4:30.
Here he is.
Yeah, there's Bobby.
Oh.
Hey.
Man of the hour. Got here.
Yeah, we got it together.
All right.
Congratulations.
All right, yay.
Like the road.
I gotta message somebody real quick and I'll be ready to go.
Take your time, get you ready. All right, let's have the approval of the minutes of the March 30th, 2025 regular meeting.
20th or 30th? I see 20th on mine.
March 20th, I believe
Okay.
it was, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, look who blew in. Oh, yeah. You made that.
Made it right in there.
Did you use that you're here?
Yeah, we got it together, we're flowing.
Did you work?
Good work.
It was rough.
This man's had a rough. 48?
What's that call of guys last night? I'll come up with that. Yeah, I was gonna put it in.
You made it.
I messaged him right now.
You sure it's him?
Yeah, he messaged me.
Oh, he did?
Yes, but it says
Really?
Carl.
Hmm.
All right, do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes? See, it's only Steve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minute.
All right, Michael makes a motion. Have a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, Bill. All right, all in favor, say aye. All right. All right, on the financial statements that you have on your packet there with you. Won't take too much time in going through that, but on the water 3 budget tracking. Gives you the current year-to-date balance, year-to-date projected budget balance, and then the total budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th. Bruce, for your information there, is what you got. Operating revenue for the water is off about 100,000 from the year-to-date budget total. We're researching that a little bit to try to determine if it's just lack of usage or what that might be. We're talked to some of the plants may not be pulling as much water as they have been, or for various reasons, but we're trying to find that out. So we'll be continuing to research that. But we're picking all of that up with the miscellaneous items. So if you take the 1,600,000 total at the bottom and you deduct out the 200,000 for the grant revenue, it's still about right on track with what the total budget would be for this same period of time. So looking at expenses, the maintenance of the system is excuse me, is up, as we know, which had to do, some of that had to do with the well field on well number 4 when we rehabbed it. And then I'm concerned that Bobby's 3 days of working is going to really blow it way out of the water before we get to the end of the fiscal year at the end of June here, because calling in that underground boring machine's not cheap. No, had to be done. So, but we're still doing well. On the sewer budget tracking, same scenario there. The total revenues is about 661,000 against budgeted of 611, so the operating revenue is up, plus some other incidental items there as well. Expenses, everything is pretty much on track there as well. So we're actually had budgeted a loss of 222,000, but we're only at 50,000 loss in the sewer. So that's a good improvement over where we have been in the past. On the trial balance report, at the end of March, we're at 1,906,000. Linda did go ahead and draw all the money from the
We did.
what fund is that?
We got it out of the wastewater treatment plant, that KI.
Yeah, out of the KIA loan for the
Yeah,
wastewater.
it
treatment
was
plant.
$897,425.
So that loan is at this point maxed out, and we'll see how that
There's
works out.
25,000 remaining for retainage that they, KIA wouldn't let us have, but they said we'll get it when the project's complete.
So financially, things are
That's why our cash is back up.
Got it.
cash back up and everything's running good.
And that
So-
KAI loan goes towards what projects? Project.
That was the wastewater treatment plant.
That was the influent
Yeah.
lift station.
Okay,
Right.
good.
Whatever.
Bill's coming due.
Yes, and we just got another one. It's about I
Yeah.
think it's 150,000. I don't know. So we're paying that this week, so that'll be coming out of that.
All right, going down to the next item, water and sewer updates on projects. We got a report from Michael that the Lone Valley Road project's in session and that his internet's already been cut, but.
Was it cut? Yeah, they potholed out there.
Yeah, they didn't know they hit it when we talked yesterday morning. But and I don't know for sure, so I'm speculating that they hit it without knowing, maybe with the boring machine, but it's already fixed now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
You know, David?
he called me today. He
Oh,
was,
did
he
he?
was off yesterday.
Oh,
So, yeah, but yeah, they're for a little bit of an update on that, yeah, the pipe looks like it's in the ground all the way on that section down to the turn by the parkway, and then it's likes about 20 feet getting to that hydrant where they're gonna tap on for the supply. So they've already, looks like got under the Texas gas line and everything, so.
that's where they started.
Yeah, so it looks like they're getting ready to make that turn back toward 62 and come up through there.
Okay.
Kind of working it, and they're working in different crews in different places.
So it'd be great to get that in place and get people turned on with water. Have we had any applications for meters or
Yeah,
whatnot?
I've already talked to, well, I've talked to 2 and I know there's 3. I haven't talked to a third person yet.
Didn't Allison send out those letters?
Yes.
Pretty sure she did. Yeah.
I got a letter
I've
yesterday.
already got
the day
somebody
before.
talking about 95.
All right. On the lagoon liner replacement, Linda and I was talking about that earlier. I don't think we're gonna be able to get anything really done on that work-wise
Right. We're gonna
in
have to
this
wait.
physical year, so we're gonna have to roll that into the next.
Do you think it'll be more of the expenses after June 30th?
It probably won't get started till.
Okay. That's what I kind of wondered as far as budget.
Because we definitely gotta get through this rain. So
Right.
Well, yeah.
we can't run it.
I was wondering though, will they order anything and we have to pay for that before the end of the year?
That I don't know.
That's
We'll
fine.
talk to that.
If you hear anything, just tell me.
Okay. So,
But we're still getting, we're supposed to get the sludge samples Tuesday, but I had something happened.
Oh.
We, yeah.
Okay,
So we didn't have a chance to do that this week, so hopefully next week we'll get the slab samples and we can get
okay.
all that straightened out.
Influent lift station is progressing along. We did, send a letter to the enforcement group, requesting that the closing date be moved from April 30th to June 30th because of the inclement weather, the rain, the flooding and everything out there. So we should be wrapping that up between now and June 30th of getting that tied up and tied on. Is there anything else going on there that we need other than just they're finishing up?
No, they're finishing up and yeah, I talked to Chad earlier and he said it looks, I know they said June 30th, but it's possible it could be May 30th.
That's good. I mean, better, quicker the better,
Yeah,
but
because they've already got most of the electric and stuff ran. They've hung all my panels and it's progressing well.
Chris, well, okay, all right. Nothing new on the LWD cutoff road project, so got the samples, but that nothing been done there that I'm aware of. And then the Oak Park water main relocation, that's gonna be another project that needs to be pushed into the next year's program there. Nothing has been taking place or anything on that at all, so. Okay. Last,
I know you got a piece of equipment down on Oak Park. Is that the sewer side of
Yeah,
that whole deal?
that's that lift station, the pumps.
And we were gonna, we did, so we were gonna replace that with a larger pump.
Yeah, I
Right,
got two
okay.
new pumps, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it happened during that big storm and stuff.
yeah.
I'm thinking they got fried, because it fried the panel.
Yeah, about fried me too.
Yeah, you had a little water down there, didn't you, Steve?
Oh, man.
I mean,
First I heard that, yeah.
Can't get in it now. My house is even.
Fried the whole one leg.
It's on the ridge.
Trying to fall here.
Floods that house. but it
Weakened
was
the other
gone.
ones too, so.
So we had that lift station was tagged as one needing help. And that's the first time Bobby just explained to me, he thought maybe you took a lightning strike down there to knock them down. So you got two pumps and some logic and some level sensors. I guess it's point level sensors are not continuous. And you got new pumps on order
Yes.
and a new control system on order.
Yeah.
That was something that our hand was forced.
Yeah, it had, it's because all the components are off the way you can replace anything, so it has to,
Yeah,
It has-
yeah, that was on the.
Exactly where are these pumps again?
down there on Oak Park.
Okay.
Honey Locust, or Honey, Honey Locust.
Yeah, I saw
right in.
crew working
Is that
down
what
there.
that one's
yeah.
called? The Oak Park Lift Station?
No, that's
Herman Gordon.
Yeah.
It's called the Herman Gordon. Okay,
That's
How
the
about
Herman
it?
Garden. Gordon.
I never know.
So we got a big 8-inch pump on it right now. Bypassing it.
You can't miss it.
No,
So whenever we do, that helps us get ready for any of the stuff out on 60.
that's not really gonna be effective.
It's not gonna be okay.
But all that one really gets, its main thing is the car wash, Dairy Queen, and all that stuff. that comes
Okay.
out that way.
Okay,
So it's not, it won't be effective.
Okay.
Cypress Lakes will.
okay.
Yeah, Cypress Lakes is the next one. Yeah. With the development out there is probably gonna be screaming for evaluation to make sure we can hang on. And
Yeah,
the gut is we won't be able to, it'll take some improvement
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. and Part of the discussion is the people building out there might put in one to help us with that too. So that's what I understood from Tim back later on when he talked to him early on, so. All right, the last meeting when some of you all were home recuperating. and,
Yeah, been a long time.
hanging out somewhere else or whatever. We spent a little bit of time looking ahead. And I'd like to I left that on the agenda because it just catch everybody up to date on it, because I think it's something that we need to be really considering as we working forward and looking with maybe a, you know, a 5-year budget plan or something to that effect of what we think the water and the sewer needs to go. We've got, you know, the influent lift station is gonna really, with the lagoon liners, is gonna really bring the sewer, that end of it up to date, up to par for a while. Won't have to do, hopefully do a lot there, but maintenance, other than the pumps and so forth with motors. And the water plant, we've been doing quite a bit of work on that to get it up to speed.
Are we gonna do lagoon work in terms of dredging or cleaning out of any of those bodies of water?
Yeah, the two lagoons, we're gonna have to do so.
Desludge, okay.
Yeah. and
That's
that's-
How many did we do originally? I mean, we've got those tubes of crap, basically, of stuff out there. Wasn't that cleaning sludge out then? And how many did we clean out then?
That was two, I believe. Yeah,
And so
two.
you gotta do 2 more. I mean, for me, in a 5-year plan, or maybe a 10-year plan,
Yeah,
it's gotta be a continuous thing, about
Right.
2 every 5 years. Cause we did what, we didn't do any for about 40 or 50 years, and then see where that got us. But, you know, it's just something we need to work in our
yeah, it's
expenses
something
for
to
sure.
think about, yeah, definitely.
Cause the two we're cleaning out, we're gonna put new liners in the bottom,
Right.
because we couldn't, the halos was more expensive than the
Exactly.
liner in the bottom. So we're gonna dredge them and then. One thought while we're on that, talking about that I was wondering today, once we dredge those out, do we have to do anything to the bottom, like compact it, or, you know, or in of those lagoons before we put the liners down on top
I'm not
of it?
thinking. I'll look into that. I mean, I'm not thinking, unless we unless we really mess with it. I don't know if we're gonna disturb the bottom.
Cause you're gonna put that liner down.
Right,
And I know in the bottom of a sail, but when we construct it, we have to put so much clay and compaction and then
Yeah.
put the liner on top of it, but that's
I don't know if there has to be some
leachate,
kind of
so I don't know if
test or
that's the
not.
same for lagoons or not.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
All right, think about it.
It just hit me today when I was thinking about that.
So what's your one? I'll see what Chad said.
As far as how we're going to get those ready to change. What's the current thinking?
Well, we're gonna make sure we can get rid of the sludge at the landfill first. And then, once we dewater it. We can. We'll get pipe grid or somebody, and we can get this stuff in line, load it up.
And then there's a treatment that we talked about, is that lime in it or something?
Yeah, the lime,
Like,
yeah.
You lime inject
get away
is
from
what
the
you do.
bagging and.
Yes, that way you can load down. the trucks
Right.
and haul it out.
Right.
The reason I brought that up, so you understand, we're not running the dredge on this.
No.
So these liners coming out, the dredging was used to take solids out. And not
Okay.
damage the liner. That's how we created the tubes.
Right.
This one's gonna be pumped down. Dried out,
Scooped out
scooped out.
Okay,
and hauled out.
different, yeah, that makes sense. I understand, well, I understand the difference.
Okay.
This is the liners.
Right.
New liners.
So during that event, Dan's asking what kind of prep we have to do. I'm kind of ignorant on that. We haven't really talked about a lot of
I
it.
mean, I've never done it before. That's what
You know, what kind of bottom, I mean, after you dig it out and
that's something
all that, do we need to be compacted, or what does it need to be done in the bottom? Cause it may need. Like say in the landfill sales, they want to clay compaction so that it makes it slower for any leakage in the liner.
And do they test that density on that?
Yeah.
Do that?
Mhm. Yeah. So. But I don't know if that's true or not.
Good chat question.
It is.
Yeah.
That's what we're getting ready to
It's either a good Chad question or a good brother question.
do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Better watch it. He may be charging these days.
Consulting fee.
It's not, he's not free anymore.
Uh-oh.
So, But.
So we dredged before because there was so much, is that right? So we've got it down now. It hadn't been that long, so. we
Well,
don't-
those two we're not touching.
Okay, the ones that we dredged before,
Yeah, we're not touching that.
We're
so
not
we only
touching those.
dredged two out of the four.
Right.
Okay.
And these were newer, so there's not as
Okay.
much in these, I'm
Okay,
told,
okay.
as was in those. So,
I mean, to simplify matters, you got bugs eating down there
Mhm,
and you know, they were dredged because you lose volume.
mhm.
So your reactor, your bug reactor, hasn't got the kind of volume it really needed, so the performance is a lot better when you get rid of all that. So that's what generated the tubes. This time around, since these are gonna be replaced, it's much more, so we'll pump these out, take them out of service, rely on those other cells to get us inspected before they charge, right? And then we'll change this guy out, these two. So they'll be starting clean and fresh.
And hopefully efficiently so that we don't
Yeah.
trip any state regulations, which kind of what led to all this anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We violated some stuff and so they got involved. We've been working on it for what, Dan, 7 years,
at
As
least.
long as I've been there.
trying to keep the state happy.
It's
and
flooded. It's like
kind of-
trying to keep it flooded.
So this will be good for that. It'll help let the bugs do their thing. We'll have more volume to eat and keep it within regulations before we discharge.
And not that I know anything about any of that, but I do listen to you guys. Have you not said that maybe there won't be as much with all the improvement that you're doing right now? Mhm.
Well, that and, being newer,
Right, but I mean, with
Yeah.
the new, all the improvements at the plant, have I not heard y'all say that?
Well, the
Screening.
the
Yeah.
screening is.
It's gonna do
we're
a
looking
better
for
job
market
and we'll,
improvement.
okay.
On sludging.
So you keep the sneakers. The plastics and everything out.
Keep the diapers and all that out.
That's the plan.
But it will create an expense of
Get rid of that.
disposing of that,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
dumpster, that
which
stuff.
we don't do now.
Still.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
Keeps coming, just because we get it all improved doesn't mean that all that crap isn't coming. Then you throw in the what? Our new bedding facility. What's it called? Market yard? What is it? Marshall?
Marshall Yard.
Yeah.
Marshall yard.
Yards, yeah.
And whatever else comes with that. If something else does come, so we're gonna have even more stuff coming our way.
They can put a grinder out there though. On the sewer like we did with the truck stop.
Cracker Barrel,
Yeah.
truck stop,
That
one of them.
helps, that helps some.
Speaking of this, while we're talking about the sewer down, item number C under the looking ahead is we do have additional people within the city that doesn't have sewer capabilities because of the lack of, we put in a gravity feed system. And the people who live in the hills and out on 10th Street, 14th Street, 15th out in there don't have that because we'd have to put in some type of pumping mechanism to do that. Either at the individual houses to get rid of the septic tanks or some other mechanism. And I think that it's something looking ahead that we need to look at. Try to figure out if there's a way to do that. Plan for that. I know I put in out at my office a little pump station and it works great. And because I had a problem with septic tank and it's gonna cost as much to put that pump station in as it did the septic tank and tie it into the sewer, so it works great.
Right.
Good. people may not individually at the house, but you never notice it if it's where it is and what it does. So, I mean, I think it's something that we need to look at to see if we could assist some of those peoples to get on sewers for their health and everything else that's related to that. So that's kind of what I was thinking when I put in that additional sewer needs within the city. Because everybody over in this end, its own sewer is on a gravity feed system. Over Riley Circle, over in that area, I think it's not because of need to be on some type of pump system to put it in, but I think it's something that we need to try to figure out as a board as to what can be done, what might need to be done, how costly it is. What we can do to help get rid of the septic systems that are out there, because it's pretty costly now to put in a septic system, pretty expensive. So that's what we were talking about a little bit to think about in that area. Looking at the water plant needs and location, some of the things that we talked about during that was the potential of needing a backup source of water to the current well field that we have to in case of something going wrong in the current landfill. I mean, current well field. It's good water. It's good. It's supply of water, but you never know when something else may come in and cause a problem in that area. And so one of the things that we talked about was that the area over towards the drive-in theater, there's been some good wells over there. And that we might, as a city, might want to look at getting a little piece of land over there. It's got some wells on it. I don't know how to go about that exactly, but do some sampling of water and what source is over there. And then we could even put a small treatment plant over there. And if we did, we could tie into the line that's coming down 95 and feed that back to the plant in that direction as a possible source of additional water and or I guess it would have helped today, this weekend.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we had
That'd be
it,
another thing to look into too, sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Send another line, another raw line. to the land.
Besides, we just have one. Is that the issue right now? That's a good thought.
If we had another one, we could have switched over.
Yeah.
That's something we'll not look at too.
Would that be just as expensive as this proposition, or should be less, right?
Yeah,
Laying down some line that,
yeah. I mean,
that would
just
work.
Tie it in somewhere.
where would you do it in relation to where the current line is?
You can lay it just, you can lay it right beside it.
Really? Okay. Okay. Well, that wouldn't be, that's not a bad idea. Just to give you a backup, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
If it's out here by 95, if we had a line coming there, we'd not. So we could purchase some property out there and build a line.
yeah, that's kind
Think
of
of
what you're
Right.
saying.
So
what I'm saying is
where does that
find
line
a
come back?
well, but then there is an 8-inch line that runs down 95 towards
Yeah.
it cuts off at the drive-in.
That's what
Okay.
we-
So you could
So
tie
where
in,
does it go ultimately? If you put water in it, where would it go?
you would come back to the plant.
Come back
So
in.
the line's already laid on it.
Yeah, we have a main down 95 right
Okay,
that ends at the driving
okay,
That's
from
what-
the water plant.
from the water.
Okay.
Yeah, we service the driving.
Okay.
Well,
And you're
without-
saying the
without
aqua-
getting too strategic,
So-
there'd have to be some thought.
Is that distribution line? So, because the distribution line can become a water line?
Well, what he's talking about is putting in a plant, right, like a small treatment plant.
Yeah.
with
Oh,
those
yeah,
wells,
yeah,
And then
okay.
tying it into that. distribution.
Okay, yeah.
So
Any,
you're thinking right.
Yeah.
Strategically, you're flowing the other direction. And you gotta figure out where it's gonna go to. And how you can get it, you're operating another treatment plant.
Mm.
How many gallons a day is it gonna be?
mm,
What's your capital, what's your operating? And then how are you gonna use your existing infrastructure, hopefully through the existing water main, which is now a supply main? And then how are you going to, logistically manage that flow to get it
Right.
where you want it to go, even though it's all connected?
Right.
Where it's connected and how you modulate things will become, and without, without having some detailed discussion, it's kind of hard to think, but you're not putting in a 3 mile of 8-inch water pipe to get back to the tile well. Just have to take a look how everything ties in, how you're gonna logically, have a well, you say you've got some land, you got 3 or 4 wells putting out good volume along with a treatment plant, and you got A, which is existing, and B, the new one. How would you manage the two, and the wet wells down there and the towers up
Right.
here, and the interconnectivity and the managing of those are possible. And then a lot will depend on how big that line is. If that's substantial enough to deal with how many gallons they're producing. So it'll take some thought, and you may wind up.
when, Tim talked about that some when he was with us, and I'd seen the impression I got is he thought that was a different aquifer of water.
Yeah, he was portraying it that way.
So, well, I mean, that really gives you a backup then. If something happens to you.
Yeah, over by the
Yeah,
drive-in, you're
there's
talking about,
a
yeah.
different, it's not the same.
Right.
So we're not pulling out of the same pool of water, which is a good,
Strategically, that could be helpful in
Yeah.
a disaster or whatever.
right, if it's good water.
Couple of questions. What happened this time? Why are you struggling? We have a leak in the pipe. What's going on? What were this 3 days? What
Oh,
was the basic problem?
we had a break on our raw water line. Which
Okay.
feeds from the wells,
Front feeds from what?
from the wells
Yeah,
to the plant.
Okay.
That's the treat.
okay,
So it's not like the treated water was. It was good.
right. Just
It
a
was just-
source getting
It
to
was
it,
just getting to us.
right?
And
And
that was
you're-
our problem. We had less flow into the plant that we needed.
Sure.
That's why we were trying to conserve everything we could.
Well,
And you had sensors that basically
Yeah.
showed all the frequency. Got it. Good. The second thing is, Bobby, what you know now, have you gotten that from word of mouth from people, from seeing it? Is there any documentation that you've studied that says, here's how Calvert works? Some of the stuff you're saying here about how this system connects this and how it runs, and is that somewhere on paper that he could read? I'd kind of like to read it myself, but how the whole system kind of fits together and works.
I
Is it,
mean, we do have we have an ISO book and stuff that just describes our system,
okay,
like where it starts, where it finishes. how
Okay.
The plant runs
okay,
and stuff like that, yes, we
Okay.
have that. But I mean, mine's just for being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just learning.
Hitting the ground running. I understand.
So there's a lot of information, there's a lot of detailed information.
I know engineering side,
Well, summaries of it. I have to go back and look. I don't think I've really seen it. I think there exists some.
well, and
I mean, there's detailed operating instruction.
sure,
And then with the upgrade in HMI, it was a lot better than we had before. As far as diagrams and stuff in the plant
yeah,
itself. Chad possesses a network diagram of all the water supply lines and all the sewer lines.
And
As
we-
far as the physical stuff,
That's right.
but that doesn't give you explain it to your grandmother type instructions of what's going on summary.
doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
yeah, but wouldn't hurt sometime. I wouldn't mind Chad coming in and
Well,
just,
he soft sold the issue. I mean, he noticed a drop in his incoming raw material or raw water. How long did it take you to find the leak?
30 minutes,
really,
yeah.
good.
we went to trouble spot first and pretty much found it.
So the leak was under the floodway of Little Cypress Creek. And he's telling the short, I'm just amazed. I'm very impressed. And they found the creek conditions where they found a boil up of water in the creek. I mean, they know the route of it.
Yeah.
They know where the cutoff lines are and
Right.
that. And they know where to look and they spotted it.
Did it have
Got on
any,
it within the hour, understood where it was.
Yeah.
And that afternoon, they had the company who's gonna be, the plan was derived and the company was mobilized within 5 hours.
Yeah.
They were on the site within 5 hours or probably less.
Well, less than that, yeah. As soon as I said do it, he had the drill machine there within an hour and a half,
So you're talking about drilling the hole. How long was the hole?
520 feet.
Directional drilling,
Directional
520 foot, putting in a 14 HDPE line.
Yes,
That's the project that's just complete.
just completed, yes.
So you noticed the problem first when?
Like it 10-ish, 10:30 on, what's the day?
AM?
Today's Thursday.
Morning,
Yeah.
Tuesday morning, it was around 10 or something, 10:30. Found it.
do you suspect any of this, the big 5-day rain? Did that have anything to do with it?
Possibly. I mean, yeah, I mean, Chad was talking to me about that too. And a lot of times when your rivers and stuff get full
Yeah.
like that.
Puts a different pressure on
Yeah,
things.
and it does make that pipe. And plus that pipe was old too.
Yeah.
And it was, from what I heard from different people, it was bound to happen. So,
Right, right.
But
You
yeah,
text me Tuesday at 11:13.
okay. And that was a couple hours after it already started. I think.
Yeah.
So he maintained pressure to the plant with losing
500 gallons.
500 gallons a
lost
minute
that.
to Cypress Creek, hurting us on our flood levels.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. I was feeling the river.
But so he kept pressure on and put out the call for conservation, was able to build some levels up.
Yeah.
Struggled a little bit this morning because people,
Yeah.
turned back some usage. Some probably bigger industrial clients had drained their tanks down and needed to milk it back up. So did you ever like really you kept the clear well?
Yeah, the pier well it got pretty low this last time.
Okay.
I was lucky to keep it to where it was the last 2 days.
So how much level are you gonna build up before you sound it all clear?
Oh, I already sent it out. I said, give us about 2 hours and
Okay.
everybody can go back to normal.
I got a guy texting me right now.
Oh, did he?
He
Well,
just want to know if he can turn it back on.
so, I told Glenn to call
Okay,
PVC.
Okay.
He's supposed to call PVC and monomers.
okay.
Knew you were at the meeting.
Yeah, he just texted me like,
Tell my
They
wife
should
to
be
do the
able to.
wash.
We're just
We've
recovering
been
from
over
it.
there texting another industrial client.
But yeah, that's,
So how much, is there any more of that same pipe that's in bad shape anywhere?
yeah, well, as far as I know, what we replaced is, they already had the other pieces replaced because it was PVC.
Okay,
I think the other stuff was old ductile iron.
okay.
So, and that's all
So
gone.
now that's,
That's all. gone. Now we got the HDPE down there.
So the line now coming from the well field to the plant's pretty much all been,
I don't know how much,
Rehab.
I don't know how much that way has been whatever, but as far as I know, it's in good shape. Yeah, we should be pretty decent on the roll. But I would still love to put in a backup,
now,
especially
at one time I
Right.
think there was some conversation about the line that goes to the power plant.
oh, you're talking, oh, okay, that too.
Yeah, it comes out of the raw field.
We did have to repair that one piece of it, but yeah, like, I don't know really about the rest of it towards that.
There's no way to run the tie into that and have that as a backup line to the plant.
Because no, you'd have to run a totally different system down there. then. Because all that does is tie into above where we were broke. Does that make sense? You'd have to run some other line for the
So-
plant.
So your answer is correct. We got 2 lines up to the well pit. Okay, and we got a jumper between the 2 lines. But it was upstream of this break. So the section that broke was a solitary line.
It was on our 12 inch.
So there's a duplicate line up to the railroad tracks and Dr. Smith probably, I don't know the exact location, he does.
Yeah.
But, and then you got a crossover there, but on this section line, between where the crossover is, it has two separate lines at the raw field. It was a single line that broke. So we have duplication up to Railroad Ave, up to Dr. Smith, and from Dr. Smith to the plant. I don't know the full route. But there was a single section that ended up.
Yeah, what happened? Yeah, it comes in there in junctions right there at A Avenue.
Mhm.
And it's split, the 16 inch line continues on to Duke. And then when they kind of, they have it's not really a T, it's kind of like a little wide kind of thing. We got two valves and stuff that you can close, open, close. But the 12 inch continues to us. And that's the one road. So yeah, so you have a line that went this way and then the other one went this way.
So how far,
They were together all the way to there.
Gotcha.
so the remaining distance in the plan is, just pull out a number, what do you think it is? 3/4 mile?
Well, from that point. Yeah.
Three, something on that order of magnitude that we're talking about.
Cause you gotta go all the way there, go to Tiffany, turn left, and then it comes all the way to, it was the highway to us.
But we'll take a look at it.
We threw this up, this may be a dumb thing and most of mine are, but if this flooding had anything to do with that, didn't they declare a state of emergency on that?
Yeah,
State-
there's a state of emergency underway.
Okay, is there any funding out there? Yeah,
That's not a dumb question. I hadn't even
No,
thought about it,
I didn't
but
either.
we'll take a look and see if we can do
Okay.
something there. That's a good, very good point.
because that's not gonna be a cheap price
No,
tag on
yeah.
that, you know,
I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't even think
yeah,
about that.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a possibility.
mhm.
Going proving
And
it.
if
I just
Chad
don't think
thinks
that's-
That's the
Yeah,
point.
I mean,
yeah.
you'll have to say, you'll have to document that it was the flooding, but. You know, we had a lot of weight of water
Yeah.
on the ground was soft.
It's
You
very.
put that
soft.
much weight on the soft ground and you got a pipe in there, it's gonna.
Shift. Yeah, there's an argument. I don't know, if, like I say, finding proof will be the challenge.
It'd be nice to get at least part of it.
Yeah. Anything.
Yeah, because then that gives us money, we can do something elsewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Totally agree.
But that's a very good point. So,
Another question, if it on this well field thing, does that get into mineral rights or anything like that on property? I mean, I got no idea. But if you're drilling down to an aquifer. So is that just the property you buy or does it go beyond that?
As far as I know, the only thing we did was. There was property already here when I was started on the board, but we ended up buying the Martin property.
Right.
And
the,
to my knowledge, all we did was sink a well in there.
yeah, so Division of Water controls that.
Okay.
Kentucky Division of Water has to issue a withdrawal permit. And we have to provide them data, and they've got watershed management, so they're looking at. They've got data, the Division of Water knows how many acres or how many square miles are in. Little Cypress watershed, and they've got a handle on what that is gonna do, but it all is permitted through Division of Water. And I don't know the intricacies of
Okay, I just,
the branches
Yeah.
inside the divisions and all that kind of stuff, but no. So there's not really mineral rights per se. The state manages who they let withdraw water. And they control that. And so that gets back to the point we had, okay, how much well capacity do you have?
Right.
They'll grant you the well capacity you need. So I got more pumpage, more capability of the pumping. And as our demands go up as a community, then we have to increase our withdrawal
Right.
permit allowance. And of course, somewhere down the road, you run into fiscal limitations. What diameter, at what speed, how many horsepower, and how much can you pull out? So you've got a physical limitation of how much water you can possibly pump, but you're gonna be administratively regulated by what the permit allows you to withdraw.
okay.
So that's some of the conversations we've all heard here about, we had some opportunities with some industrial, the client base that was gonna raise that, and so we would have to approach the state and the walking around. Reasonability that you say, well, I'll just go ahead and crank it up and I'll have, no, it doesn't work that way. If you have a need, then you approach them with an application and they'll consider it and go. And so then you have people who are knowledgeable and say, well, I think that'd be a problem, or there should be no problem there. And so, well, you never know until you get the permit application in for the increase. And the state is in control of that.
Okay.
Did I do okay with that answer? He's the one with the training.
I don't think there's
All right, the only other item we talked about was doing some software for tracking and retaining records, and I think it was determined that the potential city new software that will be installing has capability for some of that information of being able to with track, keep up with information and so forth. We may have to expand it a little bit. I was told by the ladies, I think, but it is,
We need to look and see what that module.
needs to be studied and looked at and see if it's.
It did say anything about a dashboard system or
I don't know.
it gives you a little leadway and that.
I would love that. That's.
I mean, you know, you can look up there and kind of do a read, you go in green, you're good. It'll go to yellow before it goes to red. And, you know, all that's gotta be inputted like contracts. You could, when the contract expires, it give you like a 90-day heads up that you got this contract. It's expiring. But it has a lot of capability if it's the data goes in it correctly, it'll work correctly.
Yeah, well, and getting the software to do what you want it to do,
Yeah, right.
you know, and I had a friend that years ago started, this was like in the 80s, a database, went to churches and asked them what software packages they needed, and they wanted to do attendance and financials and one other area. So the first church he went to said, well, I'd like you to be my beta. So, you know, you might try that, where he didn't charge him anything and his developer developed what they wanted and they kept going back and forth. Well, this does this, but it doesn't do this. You know, so do you think this group has it? Are they saying they might, or they actually have it, or would they be willing to develop it?
I don't know that we've had that much discussion, Bill, whether
Well,
or not
that's
they
where I'm
have it,
saying
but
this is the-
according to the girls, the ladies in there that have dealt with it says it is a
That we could
possibility and a
think
capable. So I don't know.
Talking to them when they were doing their demonstration, they
Yeah.
already had it,
Good.
but I need to do the dashboard thing.
If it works right,
I like
like
the
the
dashboard.
mayor would have, you know, he on his computer, he could pull up his dashboard. John could pull it, Linda could pull her side, and they might be looking at some of the same things. But it just tells you kind of where you're at and it gives you a little bit of lead time. To where you're not always playing catch up.
So this hasn't all been installed yet, right? When is this happening? Yeah.
So same way with your.
So I
maintenance
would-
and
It's
the-
taking a year.
You know, something.
First of the
I mean,
fiscal year or the
Yeah, I
new
know.
year?
as well-meaning as we are, life gets in
Then I
our
would-
way
If
sometimes.
you want this dashboard
And we
described as
just
much detail
don't
as you want,
Stay on.
and I
top
would
of
send it to
stuff,
them
you know.
now before if they have time to do some
I'll
coding,
make
they
the
might.
notes so that
Good. Good.
And that's an old concept, so it may be
Yeah.
called something different from that now.
You know, the software we're going to has a pretty big installed base and pretty deep experience, but they may be looking for new modules, but.
Yeah, exactly. And we might as well ask while we're here with them.
One of
Where it all
the
gets going.
immediate needs, of course, was from the maintenance side.
Mhm.
So you gotta.
Documenting what you've worked on.
Yeah, so you got
Who did it?
equipment,
Yeah,
you
you
got
got
the
this coming up, needs to be done.
Yeah, oh yeah,
preventative maintenance schedules. The
yes.
data sheets and
Yeah.
what that pump serial number is. And
Well,
all
your
that.
your
So-
brother always is talking about, let's try to be proactive.
Right.
And so if that would
No,
support you being
definitely.
proactive, I'd be all
Right,
for that.
exactly.
We need to spend some money to do
You
it.
can, you can, and then in this life, utility life, GIS would be very helpful for field stuff. So if you're out to the Herman Gordon click on Herman Gordon and there you are. And there's the new pumps we have coming in, they're there with their serial numbers, their sizes. Boom,
And
boom,
what that
boom.
is, we've started. on-
Yeah, we got the data.
But need a
But
place
then
to
you know,
pull it up,
those
review it.
and the lift stations, they have PMs on them.
Hmm.
So operational pieces that are often used, they've got a great program. It's like when you put in a piece of equipment somewhere is only gonna need attention every 4 years or something. Those are the ones that get away from you. And so
Yeah.
once you get
Yep.
the data entered
Yeah.
into it, so that's the maintenance, that's the pure maintenance side of life, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
most of us are used to workplaces having varying degrees of like CMMS, I guess, computerized maintenance management systems. So it's looking for a module to do that portion of it. And of course, there's other stuff. I mean, so the admin stuff is primarily on billing, data, the deposits, the
Commercial.
fees, it's the commercial operations of the utility. And I haven't seen anything on the modules for the other backside. But they're telling us that they have something, right?
What Carrie and them told me.
Lee, what about like contracts? Remember the contract we let lapse here not long ago? That
Correct.
You know,
That all needs to be.
that needs to be someplace where it has some kind of reminder to it.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. And with Wi-Fi, you can access it, it's not like back in the old days before we did that, we'd have to be kind of hard drive. But you can access it for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, put it in the
But
cloud.
it's a good time to do some of that stuff, and then that gets at what Dan's trying to do, because that helps. If we could pull that up and look at, instead of inventing kind of a new 5-year plan every year, you pull that up and look at it, you say, where we at on that? And then that helps you align the budget process
Correct.
to
And
where
that's-
your priorities are at,
Mhm.
so then.
They're
it-
supposed to have a
and-
bunch of things for budget.
Yeah,
It's
and we've
supposed to
talked about
really
that
help.
preventive maintenance for years, trying to, and I think we do a much better job than we did years ago, but there are that thing about, offering this sewer to people that live here. They're in Calvert City, they're taxpayers. We need to provide them with sewers. One of the things that we faced after the tornado in the area up there by the lake is a lot of homeowners that were gonna come back and rebuild. Be the same thing if the septic system goes bad. When that inspector comes in, if you don't have the property to put in the field line, there's lots up there that's so small, they couldn't rebuild them. They wouldn't approve the sewers. So I don't know that affects any of the crowds that we're talking about, but we do have a county inspector and stuff that, comes around now, and they didn't have that. There's a lot of lots up there that are not gonna be rebuilt unless they can join or add enough property to satisfy the field line. So it's just something to think about. So I think that's a great thing, Dan. We should be taking care of that.
Should be looking at it and seeing what we can do.
Do we have any sewer pumps currently? Is it all gravity that
Or
we're,
gravity. As far as I know, the houses,
We got the ones, the only one we got is the one Tony Campbell put in, or no, Tony Travis. Dr. Creek Drive.
there is a sewer pump there?
But you just
Is
need-
is
even
that
put down
something
a
you would
lift
have to start
station
maintaining?
for the-
if-
If we have 5
That's
houses
his,
from
he
on the
put
lift
that in.
station.
Yeah, does he maintain it or do you,
He
does,
maintains it.
okay. I was gonna say, if
But
we're
it
gonna
does
help
pump in.
people put them in and you're gonna have pumps, does that become more responsibility for,
well, I guess, from my standpoint, I've got one in my office.
and who maintains it?
I do.
But you have to get a time point. Where you're gonna.
But I'm tied into the pipe that runs out the creek. Sure,
I'm not
Road.
against this. I'm just trying to understand it and understand what would be the dynamics of it. Once you do it, you just, becomes a bigger part of this project.
So depending upon where you want to put a house, how many houses have lift stations? That's the
There's
grinder
quite a
pumps.
few,
Yeah.
So, if you're below gravity sewer, then you install,
Yeah, I've got a lift station
Yeah,
because
so
I didn't have
you know,
enough
you-
fall.
yeah.
For
you
the
install
distance
one,
I went, I
and then
didn't
you
go
pump
fit
up
that.
to your street, the nearest gravity sewer you can get to, you use your pump to get there.
Right.
So that's become a lot more reliable and.
Well, but my question
is.
is,
I was gonna say less expensive, I guess less expensive in the context of compared to other stuff.
right, I mean, who takes care of the maintenance? And of course, they would be adding on a Calvert sewer bill, which is part of why we want to do it with them anyway.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, well, that offset by capital expense trying to keep a septic system.
yes,
Many of our plants would love to have a septic systems tie into north of the railroad tracks. Some of the plants have it tied into their chemical sewers and it's permitted that way and some don't. So, you're trying to get a sewer out there, that would be capable of handling the population, sanitary needs of the
Yeah.
population out there would be difficult. Because of, you got those large tracts of land with bathrooms all over the place.
Yes.
So how they gathering it now and how we would gather it and process it through ours would be a difficult thing. But I think, coming up with a plan. So where you have gaps and prioritize your growth of that system would be worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I'm ignorant. I don't know what has been done in the past. I'd be willing to bet that it's been considered in the past, but I don't know. Still going
Yeah,
to.
we got guys at the plant calling me now.
At least if we document it, we can capture it, so you're not trying to start from zero when you go back in it. I don't even know how many houses we're talking about. I got no idea. I have no idea. But I know that with the development out on 69 out on that corridor, so that's gonna be a lot of sewage.
Well, that's, Chad's on top of that.
Hmm.
He's looking at, the potential increases in flows, a couple of pretty large ones, which we welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
And our systems out there by the identified ones are gonna be. We got room for Marshall Yards and we got room for another large potential, but if other stuff comes, we're gonna have to, this discussion of what they're building and what we're building. And some capacity studies on how you get in from Cypress Creek, how you get all the way into the treatment plant. So there may be some debottlenecking that has to occur on that. Certainly reliability and capacity built into that. So, you don't have to necessarily increase the line sizes, but you do have to increase how long you're using those lines.
Mm.
So, you got accumulation areas, you got pumps, you got cycling, so you can add to the size, increase, but you have to make sure it all works. And we've got those sewer line layouts and Chad's got the capability of all that. And that's gonna be part of any commercial development or primary consideration, how this is gonna get done.
Mhm.
All right, the other item I just wanted to comment on is that Glenda and Bobby and myself have been working on the 25-26 capital budget to get prepared for the mayor and the city council. They're having a budget workshop coming up here pretty quick. And so we've been trying to get everything together for that. And I think Glenda's got it in reasonably good shape. And we need to have a meeting. sometime.
Reasonably good. You feel like you're reasonably good, Glenda?
Reasonably good.
I like that.
Well, Chad did send me some information, about where we stand with the grant money and all that, because I need to know if we're gonna have to carry any over or whatever, so I put that in there.
So the process is moving 4 weeks ahead of schedule than what we normally do about, right?
Yes. Yes. So as soon as we can have a little talk about capital projects for next year.
Okay.
We can kind of wrap this up, I think.
Chad also informed us too that we'll have, after we do the Long Valley Road project, we'll have 180,000 remaining to go somewhere like H.M. Hurley or
Mhm.
down
Yeah, E.M. Hurley Road.
E.M. Hurley or somewhere else.
And just to,
And we gotta decide where to go with that.
well, that's two steps ahead, actually. We still have some extra funds. The Long Valley Road, we're providing a drop for every piece of real estate up there. And the homeowner can choose to tie in or not tie in. But it's provided, so a large portion of the tap on fee that we normally would charge is covered. So there'll be a drop made, the sewer lines being put in, as provision for future growth is built into that project. We're talking about doing Highway 95 the same way. So right now, we've got a sewer line that extends to the interstate. Excuse me.
Water.
Sorry, that's my stinking Tourette's, I guess. But there's not that many customers on that line, three.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause
So it was
you're
put
not
in,
counting Heartland Motors and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah, you only got three.
so that was put in there and everybody's got good well systems and stuff, but this money's put in, so there's gonna be tie-ins made for the properties down Highway 95. And the homeowners can elect to tie in or not to tie in, looking at trying to incentivize that tie-in is good. But we're gonna go ahead and modify that line and do those. After that, there's still some money available. And this is the effort to get people tied into safer water systems
That's right.
and stuff. So there's some conversation strategically, what makes sense for future growth for the community, who's underserved households that could be in jeopardy, and that's what the grant money is pointed for. And so looping through some of the roads out there, Ian Hurley was one that was described, that quite frankly, there's not that many houses on that road, and by information we have, there hasn't been anybody asked them to be tied into water there. And there's other tracts of land that are currently either woods or farmland. So how far out that way do you develop with grant money that's meant to bring on customers? That's why it's available. So how many yards or miles of water line per customer gets to be a consideration of what's the best move on that. So
What would be a tap fee? That's a classic tap fee for
1,500.
somebody requests
Is
it.
it more than that now? I have forgotten.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I know 2 inches, that's 3,000. So I think it's around 1,500.
15 or 17, yeah.
Yeah. around there.
So one thing is we market what we're doing now.
well, we're doing the tie-in. And so that tap fee of $1,700, that's the right number.
It's
I believe that's what it was.
That pays for the construction of that.
Okay.
And when everything's said and done, our tap fees, and it'll probably freak everybody out, is we lose money on some of those. Depending on the complexity of the tap. But you gotta tell somebody a fixed fee. You can't say, hey, you're gonna be responsible for this cost and this is our estimate. That's not the way it works. Or the flat fee. And oftentimes, at the end of the day, you lose money on that tap fee. And so by putting them all, you've got grant money available with the express purpose of bringing on customers. By doing them all in a very, get started, do a bunch of them, and then you demobilize, it's the most efficient way to do them. And it's the best way to guarantee that the utility doesn't lose money on tap fees. Oh my gosh, how could you lose money on $2,000 tap fee? It's easy when you drill underneath a 2-lane highway. And you have that kind of equipment, that kind of manpower. Yes, it gets to be daunting. So we're gonna do the whole run. At the install of Lone Valley and once we start 95, we're gonna do similar things. We're gonna drop them where they make sense. And even if the homeowners want to request a certain spot, we can do that too. So
And you can use the grant money for the tap fees, is that what you're saying?
the grant money, yes, is going to that expressively.
No, they still have to pay the deposit. We
Deposit,
do not waive the deposit.
what deposit?
So
When
it's
they hook on.
150 for 3/4 inch.
$150.
So if they want to become a customer, then they've got to come down, provide information, pay out the deposit.
Right.
We've got to go put a meter in the meter set, and then they've got to pay. They've got to pay plumber to tie into the water system. So they.
So are people coming to us since we're out there doing this construction with that kind of stuff? Or
Maybe it's kind of a mixed bag on Low Valley, isn't it?
do they know? I mean, is there
Hang on,
anybody?
we've sent letters.
Yeah.
Well,
Sent
pictures,
letters.
you know, when
What do I want to know?
we want to be empathetic. They,
Yep.
they provided themselves water systems now. They dug the well, they paid for the
Yeah.
pump, you've got
Yeah.
the pressure tank, you've got a good system or a bad system. And you've gone to that expense, right? So what is it that drives you to want to be a Copper City Water customer?
Right,
And that each individual is gonna make that decision.
sure.
So
Understand.
if the pump fails, or the water's not that great, or they got some other issue, they may elect to do it.
You know,
They've got to put their.
What is our water? Our water's hard, soft, what is it? Our,
Well, there's, everybody's groundwater is gonna be equally as hard.
right, so it's not gonna be the difference from our,
There's not gonna be a
Aquifer.
big difference.
right, makes
place to
sense.
place. Depends on their wells, but their wells likely to be hard too.
That's the last thing.
But we can't use any of this grant money for any of these other kind of things like this idea of sewer pumps and individual
No,
pumps.
this has got
It's a different purpose for this grant money.
Grant.
That's what I was like, put them together, but I know that's used to be in the school system. That's what it was. Grants went for certain things. They were all in little lanes. Don't cross lanes.
Oh, I said something about it, I think, a month before last, but you know, if the EM Hurley thing, and if we're not seeing a lot of, interest out there, you know, there are a lot more houses that could have some additional loops tied off of this Long Valley that, I think we talked about the Parish Road and the Little Rock Lane, you know, there's,
Whatever that woodland.
yeah, Woodland Trail, there's actually as many houses back there closer to the interstate, the Parkway, and
There was
then
more down Little Rock than I thought.
oh, that road is like, it's like a 4-lane highway.
Yeah.
Maybe,
There's probably more potential customers back those roads than are on the actual Long Valley Road. I don't know if that's
So I
something.
had one call me from Little Rock, the one that lives at the very end,
Mhm.
and I was like,
Yeah.
sorry, we're not.
So I don't know,
Well, part of it is, we had to do Lone Valley. Get as much water pressure
Yeah.
and hydraulic. But it had to be the first step.
Right, and I know that, you
And that
know,
opens up potential for those other ones.
Right.
And so now you're at, we're at the spot of trying to figure out what's the next step, how much money's left after the project, what's the most appropriate thing to get the biggest bang for the buck. One thing about Early, there's an existing water line down there that allows you to do a hydraulic loop there as well. Right. That helps shore up the reliability of supply down that way. Right. So there's several factors, and then we can talk about it in this meeting. We can talk about, some of those decisions here. So we got some project work to do though before we get there.
Yep.
But Chad's got an estimate of what the residual fund's gonna be. And you said it was about 180.
No,
180 is what
180.
he told me, and he said there'd be about 50,000 to carry over with the VFDs and controls, but I know you and him are working on spending all of that.
Yeah.
So on the water plant, one of the things that water plant needs, that is, we do operate an older plant. But the plant has not been static. I mean, it's had constant infrastructure upgrades. The filter media, which we are replacing, was originally put in for a much different water supply. One had a lot more solids, a lot more things to filter out than we currently do. So the VFDs, replacing pumps, new HMI, changing some IO input output on some of the valves and stuff. So constant upgrade. And at some point, maybe we need to take, this has been a pretty aggressive reliability program that we've been on for the last 3 years. And, we need to probably take a look at mechanical integrity assessment of that plant to see, what's the next projects. Like I said, keep looking forward, don't have to reinvent the wheel. So, I mean, some of it, that's old plant, it's been down there for a long time. Yep, it has. And guess what? That plant's not like a Gillette razor. You don't use it and then throw it away. You constantly upgrade it, constantly work on it. And so, you gotta be keen on where you are on infrastructure, the addition of the 1 million gallon water tank.
How did it do with flooding this time? Did we have to put up anything or to deal, remember in
They
past
put a
floods?
berm in. They put a berm in. The
The,
rock that's there, so
The
Yeah.
initial levels at Paducah were concerning enough to put the berm in.
Okay. And this
That-
berm, again, it's gotta be torn back down. This is this temporary berm thing we gotta
Temporary
do.
berm right now. And,
Okay.
we're putting together a project to do the engineering on what the permanent berm looks like.
Right.
So there's a lot of rock around. Now, when you run a city, you need a lot of rock.
That's true.
Works out.
So it does work out. We've actually, we've got several things we can do to that.
Good.
The bad thing is that you unloaded it and you gotta reload it. You gotta do it.
A little manual labor.
It does increase the cost. But, future berm down there, we'll need several yards.
If you want the board members to come down one day and move all that rock.
No,
Yeah, nothing. It'd be nice.
Anybody want to vote?
but it was a pretty
I'll
smooth
have the backhoe
operation.
ready.
Brad made the comment at the city council meeting, that's the third time he's built it. He thought it
Yeah.
went pretty smooth this time.
No, it was pretty well this time.
Yeah.
He went up quick.
I was down there in this county gawking. I moved myself because I was getting ready to get run over. It was nice to watch for a hot minute, but had the water personnel knew where the stage was, and they were, it was building.
I'm telling you, it went really well.
Yeah, if
But-
it didn't flood, it's not contaminated though.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's ideally, we're gonna be able to move a lot of it to one side and it will be part of the new berm project. It just
Mhm.
depends on how many square foot Bobby can put up with stacked up and for how long.
And it's hard to move around right now as it is.
Yeah, well, when we get the new berm designed, it's gonna be a lot changer down there because your berm is gonna be higher than the road. So there's probably gonna be a new water plant entrance, and when you're in certain portions of the plant, you're gonna be inside a docked area, and then your view on the world is
Yeah.
gonna change. But that's what it's gonna be required. Infrastructure is down there already. The clear well cannot go in the floodwaters. They cannot be allowed to go in floodwaters, and that's not likely to be moved. So.
All right. Any other comments, from anybody?
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for all your efforts. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on top of it.
Yeah, it was rough.
I bet.
So the rainfall was so significant across the state that I believe it blew away the hydraulic models for the crest. The initial models were for Paducah to be at major flood stage and it never really materialized. I'm not an expert on this, but I think that, you really pushed the upper end of the model across the state to figure out how the rivers are gonna be affected in crest. And so they flattened, I think the crest, instead of being peaked, flattened a lot more than they thought it would, and it's been sustained. We've really not had water up in the plant. So it is interesting, Calvert City, we had the really off the charts headwater coming down Little Cypress Creek. And in the city of Calvert City, this is not a utility board topic really, but where we did the detention basin, really did a lot to straighten out stormwater.
Talk about the
Okay.
one that's down there by Cherry.
Yeah, so the normal rainfall that happened in the smaller watershed was really controlled a lot better. Mr. Freeman didn't feel it where he was living, and I didn't feel it where I'm living because you're dealing with Little Cypress. So now Little Cypress had to drain, and then the river had to come up and it's gone back up the other way. So that's kind of, it's an interesting deal, but that's part of being a Tennessee River.
So, yeah, I saw you're behind your land. So you're saying Little Cypress was the issue there.
Yeah, so.
It's flooding was
you
so,
know, Mike Miller Park, Drakenville area, 1422.
yes.
All the way up to I don't know how far in there, and you probably do a little channel surfing on Kentucky Division of Water and probably tell you exactly how many acres it is. There's a lot of water came through there, and like I said, that one Saturday, the slough out in front of Love's came up at least 9 inches between 7 o'clock and like 2:30. Our
Yeah, the sloughs out there, yeah.
our sewer manways out there went under. And they're designed to, they've got gaskets on them and the lids are bolted down. But they went under in a period of less than 12 hours. They were like 6 or 9 inches. That's how I knew we raised that much. I drove by later and well, that one just went under, and they're designed to do it. But
The parsonage didn't get flooded this time. So all the work we did on that parsonage over there is.
Well, he had some sandbags over there, yeah.
Yeah.
You do some sandbagging?
Huh?
Did you do some sandbagging for him?
Nope.
No,
Nobody too over.
Let's sing it.
Yeah,
Going
I hear you.
over Industrial Parkway.
All right.
And I'm hoping what we were talking about earlier, we can lower it a foot. At least. I had about 12 more inches have been in my crawl space. We had one house between me and down the road that we thought was gonna get wet. So the Saturday night at the Blue Devils lofts, the water stopped coming up too, so.
It's good going.
I said that out loud on the video. Sorry. I'm a UK fan.
Oh,
Made it for the
man.
Blue Devils.
Didn't hurt my feelings to see
Awful
that.
glad-
Michael, you got any comments?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right. Bruce, good to have you with us. Hope you've been educational as well. Hope you come back and run you off.
Scare you away.
Y'all are asking the right questions. It's
Yeah.
good stuff.
All right, Steve, you got any comments?
No, sir. I'm good.
All right, Bill, you good?
Believe it or not.
Everybody good? Make a motion to adjourn.
Make motion to adjourn.
All right, second,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, folks.
Welcome. I just get over me anytime. What will I know? But
All right, so, we're gonna call everybody, industrial wise and tell them, let her rip, Tater Chip.
Yeah, we